in the chat box if you can hear me. All those people who can hear me, can you write number one in the chat box? Hello. All those people who can hear me, just write number one. Yes, Jayashri madam, Dinesh sir. All right. Only two can hear. We are 17 of us who are added to the platform today. So will I be only delivering only to two people who all those people who can hear me? Kindly write number one in the chat box, please. All right. No issues. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dr. Rakhi Gupta, and I welcome you all to this session. And I hope that we have a great learning experience today. And I hope that I'm able to live up to the expectation of my August audience here also. I'm sure any session which we have in the afternoon, it's a little tedious task for the speaker also to deliver, and of course for the participants also to be a little awake. So as far as I can see, only two people have responded. That is Professor Dinesh Kumarji and Jayashri Madam. I'm again reiterating. If anybody else can hear me, kindly just drop in number one in the chat box. All right. All right. Ashmit Kaur, Kushal, madam. Okay. Kushal Singh. Wonderful. So the number has actually increased. All right. So let me start with my presentation and then I go ahead with it. All right, so the presentation that I'm going to do today, it's basically on research ethics, and it says that research ethics, a comprehensive guide for all. And as I told you, that I just hope that we have a great learning experience today. And since it's afternoon session, a little tedious task. So what I will be doing is like I'll be asking you, or maybe we'll be having a dialogue with us, and then we take this session further. Now, the session is, of course, one of the very very pertinent topic, and this topic is basically on research ethics. As myself, so as we know that I am also a faculty member, I'm sure there must be faculty members, research scholars who must be added to the session. So why we talk about research, or what it is all about, or why we are talking about the ethics, we will be taking a deep dive into all that. So, but before that, I would like to start my session with a big smile. And since we are all connected online, so I am giving a big smile to everyone, because it says that a smile is a handshake with your face. So since we are virtually connected with each other, it's not possible to shake our hands. So a big smile, and with this big smile, I welcome my August audience here for this session today on research ethics. Now, before I go ahead with this session, I really don't want myself to bombard you with lot of concept of ethics and research. Of course, I will be doing that, because for that I have been engaged. But before going into that, what I would like is like I would like to have a small ice breaking session with everyone. So I really would like to know, who are you, or from which place you're joining, or maybe which department are you from. I will be taking 2 minutes of time to get acclimatized with each other, so that we can connect well. I don't want it to have a one-sided affair, and because we'll be connected again for 1 hour with each other. So anybody can unmute their mic. We are around 19 of us who are connected with each other. I can see the names. So you want me to take out the names, or you yourself can unmute and give a small introduction of yourself? Just quickly, in 5 minutes, we do that, and then we proceed with our session. So yes, Rao.
Hello.
Yes, madam.
Hello.
Yes, yes.
Yes, I'm Dr. Anuradha.
All right,
I'm the
ma'am.
principal, Department of Social Work, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar University, Srikakulam, Echirla, Srikakulam district, Andhra Pradesh.
Okay, you are joining from all the way from Andhra Pradesh. You are welcome. Welcome to
Yes,
the session, ma'am. Welcome. Okay,
yes,
so it's
ma'am.
chilling in north and then it's hot in south, right?
Yes, ma'am. It's in South.
It's in south. It's chilling in north.
Yeah,
I'm having two,
yeah.
three. No, I'm wearing two, three sweaters along with the blazer. Okay.
So we are the extreme end, ma'am. Later, Odisha
Uh-huh.
starts.
All right.
From there, yeah.
But still, I'm sure you all must be in your cottons.
Yes, yes, ma'am.
All
Yes,
right.
here the climate is like that.
Yeah,
Nice,
I'm
pleasant.
in I'm in my three sweaters. All right. Welcome to the
Yes.
session, ma'am. Welcome, welcome.
Yes,
All
ma'am.
right. Who else? There are others also. Anybody can unmute your mic and give a small introduction. It's always good to interact with each other, have that kind of networking. All right. So we have Dr. Shavani, nee, Shamana, Hita Patel, Jaya Thakur, Jayashri, madam, you said hi to me. Can you give me a small introduction of yourself, please? Jayashri, madam.
Ma'am, I'm from very small place. It's
Mm-hmm.
near Nagpur,
Mm-hmm.
Nabina Mahavidyalaya,
Mm-hmm. All right.
management department, ma'am.
Oh, you're from our field only. I'm from commerce.
Maharashtra, yes, ma'am. Yeah.
All right. Welcome
Oh,
to the session, ma'am. Jayashri, madam.
thank you, ma'am.
Nice to
Thank
have
you, ma'am.
you. Right. All right. Then Jinsi Thomas, Mukesh, Priyadarshini. Yes, Professor Dinesh Kumar, sir.
Madam, myself Dinesh from Himachal Pradesh, HP University. I
Okay.
am affiliated to. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
uh, I teach journalism and mass communication from last 10 years.
All right, sir. So you're from journalism. Wonderful.
Okay,
Wonderful.
madam. Thank
Wonderful.
you, madam.
Welcome to the session, sir. Okay. Then Sanket, Sudesh, Shushma, madam, all these people. Sudesh, sir, Sanket, Ji, anyone? All right. And this is VC. Somebody is VC. I don't know what is the full form. Vipula, madam. Anyone else? Okay. Okay. Balwinder Kaur, the Hele sir has joined. So would you like to give your introduction to us? All right.
Hello, madam. I am Lakshminarayan from Bikaner, Rajasthan.
Oh, wow. Very good. Rajasthan. Okay. So I'm
Okay.
sure, sir, Rajasthan is also chilling, is it?
Chilling environment.
Chilling environment. All right. So people, we've got people from north, south, west, east, from all the corners of the world. It's so
Uh,
nice to have them. All right. So we had that just a small round of introduction with each other. Now let me start with my presentation. Otherwise, we will not be able to finish it. So that was a small round, and I'm sure that people from south, people from Rajasthan. I myself is from Varanasi. We have all joined here for this session, and we just hope that we have a good one. So the topic that I'm going to cover today, it's all related with the research ethics, my dear friends, and it's a comprehensive guide for all, irrespective of the background that you belong to, irrespective of the faculty or the department you belong to. Research ethics is for everyone. So as I told you earlier, also some people, they may be the faculty members, the resource person, technical associates, the principals. Everyone is welcome, but we all are engaged in some way or the other. We are engaged in some kind of research, so we really need to have a perfect understanding of those research ethics. Now, when we talk about research ethics, I'm sure research, we all know that we go deep down into a particular topic and we try to delve down and take out the root causes or maybe the problems, or we all know that there are different kind of researches that are conducted, maybe the exploratory, maybe exploratory researches, or maybe the qualitative researches or quantitative researches. Somewhere or the others, we are required to maintain some kind of ethics actually. So when we talk about ethics, ethics is nothing but it's a kind of a word which has been derived from a Greek word ethos. So when we have this word ethos, it basically talks about the custom, and this ethics is nothing but it's just a branch of philosophy. And here in the branch of philosophy, we study about, or we have a systematic study of human behavior. And we talk about the human behavior and its action, whether they are right, whether they are wrong, or what is the perfect way of leading a good life, or what is the perfect way of doing a research. So there would be different kind of, there are different principles that we'll be delving down. But before that, what is more important is you just have to remember two words. Then these two words are nothing. If you're holding a pen in your hand, you can write it down. It is, when we talk about ethics, it's only A and B. So it's A and B. A and B is nothing but it's just the actions and the behavior. The actions are our actions, they are dependent upon our behavior, and our behavior is dependent on number of factors or variables, as you can call it. So in research also, our behavior determines our action in terms of doing research. As I told you that this is a branch of philosophy, and it's a kind of an obligation that we have, or we make a decision between as to what is right and what is wrong, or it is a study of the human behavior regarding the doing the research. At times, as you can see, number 4 also, it says that it's also known as the moral philosophy, involving systematizing, defending, and recommending concepts of right and wrong behavior. Now, we are all into academics, but we all know that there can be different kind of ethics that can be practiced at different places. It's not only related with our research, but there can be some kind of professional ethics, there can be some kind of telephonic ethics, there can be some kind of organizational ethics, or maybe the kind of branch that you belong to. There can be n number of kind of ethics. It can be social, it can be business, it can be decision making ethics, they can be clinical ethics, they can be organizational ethics, professional ethics, whatever word you think about, and you will find ethic is all associated with this. So ethic is nothing but it's just more or less related with the concept of doing what is right and what is wrong. Now, generally, these ethics in research also, or maybe in a prima facie, if we want to have a view, basically it's defined in three types. It's meta ethics, normative ethics, and the applied ethics. Now, in the case of meta ethics, is basically it talks about how people actually come up. They are only concerned with the ethical judgment. We are only concerned with the ethical judgment. And as I told you, that ethics basically determines the rightness and the wrongness of human actions. So whether we are talking about thoughts, whether we are talking about judgment or anything, we take into consideration that what is right and what is wrong, or what is logical, and and what is logical, and basically talks about the ethical judgment, what is right or what is wrong. Now, simple question to you all. Can you all hear me? Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So tell me, stealing or thieving is a good habit or a bad habit? Anyone? Hello? See, my dear friends, if you will not interact, then, like it's going to be a little bored session, which I don't want it to be the one in the afternoon slot. So just tell me, stealing is bad or stealing is good? All right.
Feeling
Are
is
you,
good, ma'am. Feeling is
stealing
good,
is good?
ma'am.
Huh.
Yes.
Ma'am, how? Ma'am, how? You can write it in the chat box also. I've stopped sharing. So, what do you think? Stealing is good or bad? Or
Stealing is bad. Feeling,
hmm.
F-W-L-I-N-G. Feeling. I thought feeling, F-W-L-I-N-G.
No.
Stealing
Stealing,
is
ma'am.
not good.
Stealing. Chori karna.
Stealing is a bad habit,
Stealing
madam.
is not.
Stealing is not good.
All right. So, madam, ma'am, just tell me, stealing is a bad habit. But suppose if there is a child and who is stealing to feed his family, then is it right or wrong?
It's conditional, madam.
It's conditional. Anil sir. Ji.
वो सिचुएशन क्या होगी,
Ha ha.
किसके लिए किया है, अच्छे के लिए भी कोई
Ha.
गिफ्ट देने के लिए कुछ कर सकता है ना.
Correct. So if it is for a gifting purpose, then it is bad. But in case if you are feeding a family, your family member, they are
उससे
dying,
हाँ,
they are dying because of
their
hunger.
feelings are very good for that stealing,
Hmm,
and after
correct.
that he want to give some reward to anyone, but purpose is not to stealing.
Purpose is not to steal. Correct. So
But
what I'm
this
trying to
is
put, yes, correct. Yes, sir.
ethically,
Hmm.
theoretically definition that was stealing.
That was stealing. But if the child is stealing to feed
No,
his,
stealing. When we say this is stealing, this happened, then we say this is stealing. but purpose for doing that thing.
What is the more motive behind doing that thing,
Yes,
right?
yes, motive. Huh?
Absolutely
If this is
correct.
good and this is providing good environment,
Hmm.
happiness.
Nee, happiness is different, sir. Happiness, like, okay, if a boyfriend is stealing the things and then he's gifting a expensive item to his girlfriend or a boyfriend,
No, I'm talking about holistic life. In
holistic
that
life.
case, uh, in that
Correct.
case, the thing happen. Someone says this is stealing, but many of them, when they become holistic with
Hmm.
this phenomena, then this is not stealing.
This is not stealing. All right. Thank you so much, sir. So, what I'm trying
Hmm.
to put it across to you that ethic is something which determines only A and B, that is actions and behavior. Now, like supposing as we talk about the meta ethics, as it tells about the moral values or what is right or what is wrong, it's a branch of meta ethics. Whereas when we talk about the normatic ethics, it addresses the question what ought to be done, what should be done. For example, I have been given the example of this that if the decision has to be taken, whether it is right or wrong, and we know that thieving or stealing is a wrong way, but what if one has to feed his family, then at that point of time that ethic will become right. The last one is the basically the applied ethics. It's basically judgment about an action which is done. So applied ethics is basically the application of the normatic ethical theories which are actually done in the practical scenario. So for example, they can be for example, in the case of applied ethics, as I told you, they can be business ethics, they can be legal ethics, they can be medical ethics, they can be professional ethics, they can be clinical ethics, they can be decision making ethics, they can be social ethics, they can be telephonic ethics. So there can be n number of type of ethics that can be a part of it. So since our topic is related with research ethics, I wanted to give you a base as to what are the different kind of ethics that we have. So normative is basically what ought to be done. There has to be a decision. Now there's a demarcation between to the two, what is right and what is wrong. When we talk about the ethics, there are primarily three main ethical theories that we talk about. The first one, it talks about the deontology theories. This sounds a little different, but it is one of the very, very important theories in the field of philosophy also. And in the case of deontology theory of ethics, it talks about that people should adhere to their obligations and duties when they are engaged in decision making. So as a researcher, when we are engaged in making a decision that whether we should do something or no, there are certain principles of ethics, then it is the prerogative of an individual to make a decision whether they have to adhere to that obligation or no. For example, if a person says that okay, I am going to fulfill my promise which I have done to my friend, so that becomes a deontology concept. Why? Because I am doing something which is adhering to my obligation and duty. It is my duty that I have promised to a person that I will do this. So the person is going to do that. So it says that in the case of deontology theory, it says that an action is considered morally good because of some characteristics of the action itself. Why? Because it is the prerogative of oneself to make a decision what is right and what is wrong. So one has to follow his own obligation. So that is deontology, and people who practices, they are known as the deontologist. The second one it talks about is utilitarianism. Now, here in the case of this one, it talks about that the action to be judged by the ability to produce the greatest good. What good we are doing. So it's basically based on the ability of the person to produce the consequences of an action. For example, if we are acting in a certain way, so my action would be based on such a way that it is not detriment to the interest of anybody, but it is benefiting most of the people. So in the case of this one, it says that one's ability to predict the consequences also. Like if I'm doing something, if I'm stealing, then what will be the consequences? Then it is my obligation to make a decision whether I should steal or whether I should not steal. And it is also very true that any action is good if it produces more happiness than the unhappiness in people also. So in the case of this second theory, what is more important is we have to talk about two things, that is the act and the rule. So how I am acting, how my actions are going to have an impact or the consequences that it is going to result, we have to evaluate that. Second is the rule one. It takes into account the law, and it is basically concerned with the fairness. For example, if I'm going to do something which is going to benefit people in the most fair manner, then that would be a part of this particular theory. So they can be they because we are talking about ethics. So ethic is something, the kind of a moral values, or there are certain obligations which are on us. And basically, when we talk about ethics, we actually have three words also. If you have the pen, you can write it down. RSD. So RSD, it is basically the ethics are actually there to protect the rights, the safety, and the dignity of the stakeholders. So since we are in academia, so our stakeholders will be who? Our stakeholders will be the respondents, our stakeholders will be the university, our stakeholders will be the people with whom we are surrounded with. So we have to make a decision that the action that I'm going to take, what repercussion it is going to have. So that is the part of the second one. The third one it talks about is the virtue theory. It basically judges a person. We can judge a person that by his character rather than the action. That how he is how is the person. So it basically takes the person's moral and reputation, all those things into consideration. So we have so many leaders, we have so many people, we are only checking them by the kind of behavior, by the way of their character, that they are the ones who have got good ethics and they will be performing all the tasks that is good for the people. So when we are practicing these ethics, we have to actually take into cognizance the emotions and the sentiments of all the stakeholders. So it is generally the duty of the people to analyze that what action they are performing and what kind of behavior they are exhibiting, to see whether things are going right or wrong. Then we all know about the research. So like for example, somebody may be from chemistry department, somebody from journalism, somebody may be from physics, somebody may be from commerce management, from diverse field. So there's a difference between the clinical and the social science research. So here basically we know that like most of the people are from generally social science research background only. So we all know that okay, we take up a problem and there are different kind of different kind of studies which are actually conducted, and we go deep down in analyzing, and we generalize the findings. Whereas in the case of clinical research, it's more related with safety, quality, effectiveness of the medical devices or anything which is related with biomedical or medical. So I will be discussing, we will be going back to the, the history also, how it actually came up. Then, in the case of social science research, we go for the literature review of the data, interview, focus group. These are the ways by which we actually collect data. Now, once we are collecting data, who are our stakeholders? Our stakeholders are the respondents. So, as a researcher, we have a responsibility towards our respondents also, that we have to protect their right, we have to take into their safety, we have to be just, we have to maintain the dignity of the people who are involved into research. Whereas in the case of clinical research, it is something different, and there are different steps which are involved in the clinical research and the social research. So these are the properly. So why I have put this slide here, because I wanted to tell you that whether it is the phase 1 or whether it is the phase 8, we are supposed to maintain the research ethics at every time, whether it is the data collection, whether it is during the data analysis part, or we are identifying the problem, or maybe we are formulating the hypothesis. Now, hypothesis is also one of the very, very exciting topic on which I speak for 1.5 hours. So when we are doing that kind of hypothesis, we have to take into cognizance the number of factors also. So whether it is the clinical trials or whether it is the social research, in both the cases, the research ethics, they have to be maintained at the best. Then, in the case of scientific research also, we know that like the features are like, they can be the results, they can be actually generalized. There's a kind of a scientific rigor that goes into it. So now we know that we do not have to copy anybody's work. We do not have to have that kind of plagiarism, or we have to be quite objective. We have to be quite transparent. We have to maintain that kind of integrity. We have to maintain that kind of accountability. There has to be no discrimination between the people. And whatever research we are doing, it has to be legally correct. There is some kind of social responsibility on our behalf, that okay, we have to do a research which will abide all these things, and nobody is going to feel offended. So basically ethics is like, as I told you, that in the case of research, right from the phase 1 to phase 8, everything has to be ethically correct. So all those kind of the values, the norms, the responsibility, the fairness part, the reliability part, the validity part, everything has to be taken into cognizance. Now, there's a small activity I have brought it for you all. So, all those people who are listening to me, let me just stop sharing this. Okay. So, all those people who are listening to me, can you write number 2 in the chat box so I know who are ones who are active? Write number 2 in the chat box, please. Write number 2 in the chat box. Kushal sir, Revati madam, Jayashri madam. Okay, so dates sir. All right. Jayashri madam. Okay, good. Okay, only 2 of them. What about others? Anil sir, Shushma madam, Bhumika
Madam, I
madam.
am here, but I am doing some assessment of the paper.
So you can wait for 5 minutes. You can put the assessment of the paper aside for 5 minutes.
Oh, this is
Only
with
2 minutes.
time limit.
All right. So it's just a 2 minute activity that I have it for you. All
Okay.
right. Okay. So almost 4 people are connected. So, anyways, all those people who are listening to me also, and if they are not, putting number 2 in the chat box, is Professor Kritika Gupta also, madam. Welcome, Ashmit Korsa, whatever. So, what you're supposed to do is there's a small activity. I'm giving you 2 minutes of time, and you have to write 5. Yes, they have raised their hands. Shushma madam, Dinesh Kumar sir, they have raised their hands. I don't know why. What you're supposed to do in this activity, you're supposed to write maybe 3 to 5 what are good ethics and what are bad ethics example. Maybe from your field, maybe from a professional field. It's not necessary that it has to be related with research. I'm talking about research. I want to dig out from you what are 3 to 5 ethical behaviors and unethical behaviors according to you. It can be related with anything. Is it clear? Uh, so all those people who have written number 2, Jayashri madam, Asmeet Kaur madam, Sudesh Kritika madam, just write 3 to 5. What are the ethical things according to you? Not related with. Please, I'm not talking in respect to the research. Research things I'm going to talk about. I'm talking in journal. It can you can include research in that, but it is a kind of a general thing. So quickly, I'll just give you 1 minute of time to write it down. And once it is done, you can write number 3 in the chat box. Just 3 to 5. What are the good ethics example and unethical examples? So in case if you are done, you can raise your hand. Three to five good ethical behavior and 3 to 5 unethical behavior. So has anyone done it? Kritika madam? Professor Kritika Gupta madam? Can you hear me? All right. So good ethics according to you is honesty. Can you ma'am please unmute yourself and speak for yourself? That would be wonderful.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
So,
You're
according
from
to
where?
me, I'm from Ludhiana, Punjab.
All right. Welcome.
Thank you,
Yes,
ma'am.
madam.
So,
Yes.
according to me, you were talking about the ethics. So, good
Hmm.
ethics are honesty first, of course. That is very, very
Hmm.
important in research. That one should
Hmm.
be honest in research. The actual research should be done, and it
Ma'am,
should
not in
not be.
research. Research, I'm not talking in general. I'm talking in
All right,
general.
all right, all right. And
Yes.
data accuracy.
Yeah.
According to me, this is the second most important ethic. And the
Hmm.
confidentiality, if we are searching in like if doctor is going to research and the
Hmm.
report of the patient, that should be
Mhm.
confidential. It should
Confidential.
not be
So,
revealed.
ma'am, here tell me one thing.
Yes.
If the doctor knows that the person is suffering from a very, very severe disease and he feels that the person doesn't have much time, so do you think that he should disclose it or he shouldn't disclose it?
The relationship between the patient and the doctor, that can reveal with each other, but
Hmm.
the disease should not be revealed with
Hmm.
others.
Okay, but it can be done to the family members so that they are mentally prepared.
Yes,
Is it?
right.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, madam. Thank you. Okay, Anil Porwar, sir, you're busy with some work, but you've written it. Flexible rules, development of humankind, behavior, art self politely with anyone, and respect everyone. All right. So this is according to the good ethics. Okay. Then, Sudesh, sir, can you unmute yourself and speak, sir? Sudesh, sir. Sudesh Kadam, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Hanji, please. So tell me, what are the good behaviors and the unethical
Madam,
behaviors? Ji, yes.
good behavior like honesty in communication
Hmm.
and action,
Hmm.
respecting others' rights and dignity.
This is very important. Very good.
Yes.
Hmm.
Taking a responsibility for one's action
Taking
and
risk. Okay. Hmm.
following laws, rules, and professional code of conduct.
Hmm.
This is the some ethical behaviors.
Hmm.
And unethical like lying, cheating,
Hmm.
stealing,
Hmm.
exploiting others for personal gain,
Very good.
discrimination of harassment,
Very good. I
and
really liked your all these unethical and they are very pragmatic also. They are very
yes, yes,
practical
yes,
also.
yes,
So
yes.
wonderful. Very good now, so sir. So unethical behavior is according to you is lying, cheating, or exploiting others for personal gain or discrimination or harassment, right? So very good. Okay. Jayashri madam, would you like to speak?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Ji.
Uh, what I said is do needful as when you need it.
Hmm.
So, and what you expect from others, your behavior should be like that.
Hmm.
And for the unethical, lying is the most thing. It means be
Absolutely.
honest always.
Absolutely. Wonderful. Thank you so much for all those who participated. Now, let me come back to my presentation. So, now you have a better idea. Like all these things, they are some way or the other related with our ethics also. So, that was a small exercise which I wanted to do it with you to give you an idea about the ethical and the unethical behavior. And somewhere or the other, the few examples like lying, cheating, or using people for our own personal gains, they are also a part of our research ethics, because the researcher wants data. And at times, the researcher speaks lies to the respondents, or they do not have that kind of feeling towards the illiterate people, or maybe the minor children, or maybe the people who are hard pressed with money, or maybe the people who have suffered very badly. So, some way or the other, these ethics they are related with our real life also. So the next one we talk about is you have perfect knowledge about ethics. Now, research ethics, what are the kind of objectives we have? Because I told you that we have to maintain the rights, the safety, and the dignity, and we have to ensure the wellness of the people. That means people who are doing their research as a research scholar, the motive is that, okay, I should get maximum data collection. And even if I am supposed to lie or do some kind kind of falsification also, that is okay. But that is a kind of ethics that we should not actually follow. Then the third objective is to inspect particular research events and scheme for the ethical reliability, whether they are actually holding true or whether they are not holding true. That is very essential. And why we talk about the research? Because we know that we have to protect the rights, the safety, and the dignity of people who are our stakeholders. And these stakeholders, we know who are they. So research ethics, we know they are the certain kind of rules and regulation that govern our behavior and actions. And it is basically, we know that it is applicable in the social science research, or maybe in our clinical research which is there. And at times there are different research committees which have been actually constituted for the purpose of identifying whether the research is ethical or whether it is not ethical. If ethical basically means, please understand, I'm talking about three words: RSG. That is the rights, the safety, and the dignity. I'm talking about these three words. So if we are able to protect the rights, if we are able to protect the dignity of our stakeholders and the safety of the respondents, then our research is said to be ethical. So basically, research ethics, they are just the code of line. Then ethical, in when we are talking about the process, like for example, I told you right from the phase 1 to phase 8, we are supposed to maintain that kind of ethics. So here, whether right from the conceptualization and design of the study, we have to understand whether what kind of topic we are taking up, who are the participants who are going to be a part of our research, how we are going to measure the thing, what kind of tests we are going to do, what kind of questionnaire we are going to do, how we are going to do the literature review, how we are going to report it, how we are going to do our findings, what kind of calculations we are going to do. And once we have the results with it, how we are going to disseminate that information also. Because once we are doing our data collection part also, we make a promise that your data will not be shared with anybody. But at times people, they do share, because they grind their own axe, and once their axes are grinded, they just move out of it. So that is not a part of our ethic behavior. Now, ethic revolution actually dates back to 384 BC, where there's Aristotle proposed a theory of virtue. So we just in the beginning only we discussed three theories, that is the deontology theory, utilitarianism theory, virtue theory. So these theories, they are not new. So right from the Aristotle to Socrates, to Siddhartha Gautam Buddha, right from the Kant, rightness of an action is determined by the character of the principle that a person chooses to act upon. Again, this basically emphasizes on two words: our action and our behavior. So even if we are doing our research, if we are not maintaining our morals, if we are not maintaining the honesty, if we are not maintaining the integrity, some way or the other, we are doing it wrong. So at times in our daily lives also, we become unethical. I'll give you a simple example. If I ask you all, how many of you break traffic signals? So at times people, they feel that, oh no, I never break. But there would be people who have the obligation to be right. So even it says, okay, if the needs arises, we do break our traffic signals. But however, ethically it is not good enough to break the traffic signals. So basically ethics is like, they're definitely, it's all dependent upon our actions and our behaviors. And ethic revolution, it all dates back to the Bentham also, 1781. Mahatma Gandhi from the period 1869 to 1948. He was a person who believed lot in ethics. Martin Luther King, Nelson Mandela, then Pan African philosophy. There's so many of things. If we go back, we find that ethics is not new. In our case of our research, we have some ethics which has to be maintained in the treatment of the respondents or our stakeholders. So we know that a code is basically what? Remember the two words A and B, action and a behavior. And it's a kind of an obligation imposed on the part of the researcher to take into cognizance certain principles while he or she is designing or implementing his or her research. So this is like, for example, for them, it is more important that, in case if we are doing any kind of data collection, they have to be well informed why the data is being collected, and the data has to be correct. And all the respondents, they have the right, that they have the right to privacy, that the data will not be disclosed to anybody. They have the right to choose which questions to answer, which not to answer, right to safety, that their identity will not be disclosed in any manner. And of course, they have the right to be informed as to why the research is being done and where their personal details will be utilized. As a researcher, at times, in order to protect all these things, we can always have that kind of policies or some kind of confidentiality rules, or maybe some kind of copyrights are also there to protect the originality of anybody's research. Now, this is one of the most important slide of my entire presentation, where it talks about the principles of research. We already know that what is the meaning of a research. We already know what is the meaning of ethics. You already understand that what is ethical and what is unethical. The examples that have been quoted by the esteemed participants, it's the reflection. We can make it out in our daily lives also, in the and we can connect it with our research also. So now, people coming from diverse backgrounds or linguistics or tradition or profession experience, they may have a shared interest in our research. So at times, when they have that kind of shared research interest, at times we have to take into cognizance that these principles, they are kept into our mind: integrity, competence, non-maleficence, beneficence, autonomy, honesty, responsibility, privacy, confidentiality, dignity, and justice. Let's take one by one. For example, honesty is the best policy. That's what we have been hearing right from our childhood times. And we know that any research work which is being done, any kind of core research which is being done, we have to be honest in our research. That means whatever we have observed, it has to be actually put it in that same fashion, rather than having that kind of fabrication. So whether the kind of methodology or the findings, they have to be honestly reported. Second is integrity. Integrity is basically ensuring honesty and sincerity. We have to fulfill our promises, the promises that we make to the stakeholders when we collect data, or maybe the kind of covering letter that we write in the case of our questionnaire designing. So we have to adhere to them. It's just not that that your purpose is over and then you forget the promises that you have made it to the stakeholders. So one of the another principle is that we have to maintain that kind of integrity. Then we have something which is known as the objectivity. Now, objectivity is basically talking about the biasness. We do not have to be biased in our data collection, or maybe in the analysis part, or maybe the interpretation part, or maybe the review part. If you all remember, my dear friends, in the case of questionnaire also, we have got certain open-ended question where the respondents, they are free to express themselves. So when respondents, they are free to express themselves, so how are we reporting those things in our research is of paramount importance. So definitely that becomes the objectivity, that okay, whatever things that we have actually observed, it has to be reported in that same fashion. Then respect for the person or respondents. Naturally, we have to be very, very careful that we have to have that kind of a relationship with our people, and especially just 1 minute. And especially with the people who are minor, who are ill, who are illiterate, and those people who do not understand between what is right and what is wrong. So we do not have to, use them for our purpose. Somebody talked about that, we use people for our own personal gains. So that kind of values and that kind of norms, they should not be part of our research. And because when we are talking about the research ethics, again specifying the basic norms of values that a researcher should adhere to. Then beneficence is basically the maximum benefit of the participants, ethical obligation to maximize possible benefits. So for example, we have to see that the people, for example, when we were talking about the normative ethics, we were talking about that what is right and what is wrong. We talked about stealing. So if a child is stealing to feed his or her ailing mother or a father, then it is fine. So at that time, it is benefiting people. But any stealing which you are doing for the personal happiness, or maybe the happiness of others, like which is not genuine, then it is detrimental to the interest of the people. So beneficence is basically the research that we do, or whatever ethics we follow, it should actually benefit people at large. Then protecting the subject, do not harm or risk to the human. We have to ensure the privacy, autonomy, and dignity. I will just give you, for example. Are you all hearing? Are you all listening to me? Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. For example, I'll give you a very small example of ensuring privacy and autonomy and dignity. For example, if I ask you that do you smoke or do you take alcohol? How frequently you take alcohol? Are you a chain smoker? Or maybe anything related with your personal life, anything related with your, personal mods, or anybody who has suffered very badly, or anybody who has suffered very badly in the case of maybe physical harassment or mental harassment. So these are the things where people, they don't want to see, they don't want to disclose all those things. But for your purpose of research, if people are confiding in you, they are having in trust with you, then we have to maintain that kind of privacy of the person, that okay, if the people, they are giving us some data, so that data has to be properly maintained, and it should not be disclosed, or it should not go viral. Then responsible publication. So responsible publication, we all know about the duplicate publication. We do not have to falsify, we do not have to fabricate in our publication. So that publication and research ethics, they are all interrelated with each other. Then protecting anonymity, it means keeping the participant anonymous. It involves not revealing the name, caste, creed. In our Indian society, or in our, maybe in our world at large, people, they do a lot of discrimination. One of the, I think, Dinesh sir talked about that there should not be any discrimination, so that is an unethical behavior. So any participants, they, or any stakeholders of our research, they should not be demarcated on the basis of caste, creed, sex, color, or maybe the kind of background that they belong to. And above all, their identity should not be disclosed if they are in confining in you. So at times when we do research, people are say, okay, fine, you can say. For example, like if a IFB company is doing a research, and they want to know that how is the performance of their fully automatic machine. So even if the name or the phone number or maybe the email ID is disclosed, if the customer is unhappy, then it is okay. But any research which is very confidential, anything which is like very private, very sensitive issues, you are doing a research on a very, very sensitive issue, then we have to keep in mind that we do not disclose the identity of the people. So confidentiality is all related with the same aspect. And we know that at any point of time, we have to maintain that kind of confidentiality of the participant. And when we do that, that is the best part. But where it is open, it is open, then people have no problem that okay, even if you disclose it also, then also people, they do not mind it. For example, I gave you in the case of marketing research. Then the non-discrimination, as I told you, on the basis of ethnicity, the factors are the violation of human rights and are non-related to the study. So we do not have to discriminate. Everyone is welcome to the study. Anybody can participate in a study. And even if they are participating also, then it is the responsibility of the researcher to ensure that he or she doesn't discloses the identity of the person. Then openness, be open to sharing the results or the data. People, they have the right to know that in case if they're giving you certain kind of information, then where that data will be utilized, how it will be utilized, it is going to detriment or harm people. For example, if you ask anybody that okay, what is your income, okay, people will tell you maybe from 10,000 to 20,000, 20,000 to 30,000. But maybe in case if you ask people that how much money do you earn as a bribe, so nobody is going to disclose you the figures. But in case if somebody tells you also, okay, I tentatively earn some X amount of money, then you do not have to disclose those results. Somebody has confined in you, so then also you shouldn't disclose that kind of information to people. So one has to be very careful about the intellectual property, or maybe intellectual property in terms of your writings, in terms of your the research that you do. You cannot plagiarize it, and we do not go ahead with that. So we do not have that kind of biasness also. Then the justice is that that equal treatment has to be given to the people, maybe the people who are giving you the data. Then another these principles, they can be categorized in another five kind of categories. For example, minimizing the risk of harm. So we have to ensure there should not be any bodily harm. There should not be any money paid to the respondents to give them the data. There should not be any kind of physical exploitation, mental exploitation, no harassment, no embarrassment. All these things, they have to be taken into consideration by the researcher only. And above all, this very important word which you can see on the the screen, informed consent. So until unless the participants or the stakeholders, they do not give you the permission to take down the things, you will not do it, you will not take it. So you need to have that kind of informed consent. And of course, all the participants, they have the right to withdraw from your research at any point of time. So informed consent is basically a person should know that okay, they are giving their consent to participate in the research. They are well aware about the how that research is being done, where that data will be utilized, who are the people who are doing that research. Is it for the MBA purpose, or is it for the dissertation purpose, or is it for the government organization, whatever, or it is for an NGO, whatever. They should have the consent that okay, you can do it. So people, they should know that okay, the research, or what will be the use of the research, what are the methods to protect their confidentiality, or they have the right to withdraw from the research at any point of time. Then confidentiality is again maintaining that okay, their details are not shared with anybody, or the information that they have shared with the researcher, they will not go out. Then avoiding misleading practices, like for example, there are people those who fabricate, no, 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 we will not share the details, and later on they do it. So that is not a part of our ethics. So there should not be any kind of misleading practices or misinformation to the respondent. They should know that okay, I'm going to use this data here, so if you give me the consent, only then I'm going to use the data, else that data will not be utilized anywhere else. Or giving false assurance, or giving them false information, or giving money to get the data from them. And then of course, they have the right to withdraw at any point of time. If the participants or the stakeholders, they feel stressed out, they feel that there is a fear of insecurity, they can always withdraw from that group. Now I was talking about these vulnerable group of people. Like for example, we have to be very, very careful in our research that who are our target audience. For example, they can be students, they can be children, they can be dying people, they can be poor people, they can be sedated people, they can be people who are addicted to alcohol, to smokes, to their personal modes, whatever it is. So we have to maintain that morality and well-being of such people. So we have to be more careful when we are doing research with such people, that like very old people or very ill people, because people, they make fun, like anybody is drowning in the in the river, people will not save the people, rather than they will start shooting a video. So this is not ethical. So but this is a practical fact, which everyone actually is doing it. So we have to be very, very careful in case if we are doing a research related with these vulnerable group of people, anybody who's illiterate, minor, or a sufferer, or a victim, or a very critical ill person, very aged person. All those things, they have to be taken into consideration. Then as a part of the research ethics only, the researcher should have the basic skills and familiarity of the specific study. And the one should perfectly know that who are the research audience, or the population from whom he or she is going to collect the data, how that data will be utilized or interpreted or analyzed. It all has to be taken into consideration. And of course, this informed consent is there, that there should not be undue influence. Now, what is the meaning of undue influence? Undue influence basically means dominance. Like for example, if there's a relationship between a landlord and the tenant, so landlord, whatever the landlord will say, the tenant has to follow. Yeah, whatever the master will say, the servant has to follow. So that is a kind of an undue influence. So in the case of research also, we should not use any kind of coercion, or we should not use any kind of dominance to get any kind of our data. Then in the cases of the informed consent also, we have to understand, before we start the study, who are the people, what are the risks which are associated, what are the benefits which are associated. I should tell them, the researcher should tell the people, or the respondent, or the stakeholders, or how that information will be presented, or maybe any concern, any other ethical issues which have to be concerned. It has to be brought to the notice of the stakeholders. So in the case of the informed and consent also, the people, they should know about all these things. What are the risks, what are the benefits, what are the rights, what kind of compensation will be paid in case if it is done so, or what are the objectives, so on and so forth. So we know that in the case of research ethics, it basically helps us to go ahead with the research, and the trust is increased because of the ethics that we follow, the obligations that we have towards the people in terms of integrity, in terms of openness, in terms of honesty, so on and so forth, all the values that we have just talked about. Then we have got certain limitations also of research ethics. For example, there can be some kind of psychological risk. For example, maybe people, they do not understand the thing, but they give us the information. Or there can be some kind of social and legal and economic risk also. For example, here it is written, if personal information is collected during a study is unintentionally released, so participants may face a threat or judgment of stigmatization. So here, these are the limitations. These are the things which are not in our hand actually at times. For example, if a movie is being shot, so we all know that no one is supposed to disclose the climax of the movie. But for example, if somebody very secretively shoots that scene and makes it viral, then that is a limitation of our the limitation. That is one kind of limitation. So there can be different kind of limitation that has to be taken into consideration. But we have to be very careful that the ethics, they should be followed whenever we are doing that kind of research. So at times, how we can ensure ethics at different steps of research, we need to collect the facts, we need to understand the matters, we need to understand the who are the stakeholders. These stakeholders, they can be the vulnerable group of people also, or maybe the people who understand the responsibility, or who are the personality people, how they're going to innovate, how to maintain that confidentiality. All these things, they have to be very clear in the minds of the researcher. Now, another way of looking at research ethics is by looking at the unethical research conduct. Now, for example, I gave you a small activity and I asked you that what are the unethical ways also. So, unethical is something which you think which is not good enough, and it is a moral duty that these things, they should be avoided. Same is the case here with the research also. Deception, cheating, so withholding information without about the aim of the study, misleading the participants, saying something and doing something, or falsification is there, fabrication is something there. For example, you're reporting results which never, maybe you're reporting results of some experiments which were never ever conducted only, or maybe you're doing any morphed photographs, like morphed photographs. Matlab, for example, it says that like. Maybe with the photoshops you can morph the photographs. That is also fabrication, that is not the ethics. Or maybe the falsification is basically misrepresentation or suppression, or a part of the data. Or you're doing a fraud, deliberately you're doing something where the other one gets affected. So for example, like plagiarism, you're publishing the work which was actually done by the some other person, but you're doing it in your own name. So all those things, they are unethical behavior. So for example, the lack of objectivity, or where you do not have the scientific base for your result. Fabrication, as I told you, you're misleading, or you're changing the figures, you're reporting something which was not actually ever done by the author or the researcher. Or we are not respecting the right of privacy, we are cheating people. We tell people, okay, we will not disclose it, but we are disclosing it. We are not maintaining that confidentiality. We are not respecting the rights. I was again talking about these people, people with low status, illiterate, victims, prisoners, or highly aged people, children, mentally handicapped individuals. We have to be very very careful whenever we are doing any kind of research related to such people. So we have to maintain the confidentiality, the privacy, the informed consent, all those things which we have discussed, they have to be maintained thoroughly in such kind of group people. And of course, we are not having, having that kind of holistic, holistic research, not considering things for environmental. So there should not be any kind of embezzlement of ideas. Somebody, you're claiming somebody else's idea or your own idea. That is why IPR is there, intellectual property rights are there, to protect your proposals, your ideas, your innovation, your creativity. All those things will go into this. And plagiarism is again quoting somebody else's work as your own, which is again against the ethics of research. Then falsification is basically misrepresentation, part of data. For example, like in order, for example, falsification for example, if number 10 is written, you make it 100. So that is a falsification. You're changing the figures, you're changing the years, you're changing the data, you're changing the results that have been generated. And fabrication is basically you're doing something which was never done. So for example, if you're in an experiment and you're quoting something which was never ever done. Fraud is basically where intentionally you're trying to bring some harm to the other party. And non-compliances of the regulatory guidelines, there are certain guidelines related with the publication ethics. If we fail to do that, then also it's a big problem, because there are a lot of companies, or there are certain RECs, which is known as the Research Ethic Company committees, which are actually formed to ensure that the research is done in the ethical manner. And it says that, for example, there was WCRI, World Conferences on Research Integrity, which was there. There were other, there are other programs also. For example, there are other associations also. For example, European Association of Science Editors. So all these things, they are the groups of people who are there to check whether the ethics have been maintained or no. And of course, inappropriate authorship, excluding the genuine contributors. For example, if four people have put in efforts in doing the research and Mr. X has put in the maximum effort, you are deleting the name, or you are placing the person at the end, so on and so forth. So that is also not a part of our research ethics. So anything which is like fraudulent, anything which is not validated, is all against our behavior. So why do we think that we can have unethical behavior? At times they can be deliberate attempts, and at times they can be people are not aware. For example, ignorance. People are not aware that what to teach. Or maybe the examples are like, for example, teachers don't pass on the standards and the rules. The rules are not communicated to the people, or maybe the sources are not told to the people, so on and so forth. So there can be some kind of policies and standards at the institution level or the school level, which should be taught to the students regarding the doing of research. So that has to be followed properly. And it says that fundamentally research ethics are respect, beneficence, and justice. So this is the main principles of research ethics. We have to respect the stakeholders we've already discussed, respect for the sponsors, the communities, or the academic community, that is the academia that we all belong to. Then the justice is like, researchers should not place one group of people at risk solely for the benefit of other. So this is again one, I think Professor Jagdish sir said that we use people for our own benefit. So that should not be a part of our research. We should not utilize the other person for our own sake of doing research. And beneficence is basically well-being. We talk about the well-being, mental and physical and social well-being of the stakeholders. So we do not have to use the coercion. We do not have to use the moral undue influence on people to give us the data or interpret the data or do the falsification at the time of analysis or the interpretation. We have to be very, very careful about all these things. So all these three principles, they are the main ones. Then ethical principle, respect for person, beneficence is all the justice that we're looking forward to, right to be treated equally, no demarcation or no discrimination. We've already discussed it earlier also. No discrimination on the basis of caste, creed, sex, or religion, or the ethnicity. And of course, we have to ensure that there has to be fairness, or there has to be informed consent, or the people who are a part of our research, we have to bring social justice, or maybe they should not be used for our own purpose in any regard. So this is a slide which is basically talks about the international landscape, and they were Berlin codes, or maybe the guideline for human experimentation. Nuremberg code is basically for the medical research. The codes are for the medical research, because there can be some kind of misconducts which can be conducted in any kind of research. So this is basically this code was actually during the Second World War. It was actually performed by the Nazis, and then there were the code were generated. Then the Declaration of Helsinki, it's basically again ethics for the biomedical research. Belmont Report again is related with the National Commission related with the human subject of biomedical and the behavioral research. So you can see there are different organization and different commissions which have been set up to ensure that the ethics they have to be formed. Either it is in medical, either it is in social sciences or in clinical research. So these were all the there were different declarations which were done. So ethic research markers from the codes were adopted. So a lot of things, they are all interconnected with each other, right from the codes to the commission people. Then what members of the research ethic committee, now these, since we have been talking about the committee members, REC, that is the research ethic committee, so what they will be looking forward to, they will be looking forward to that your stakeholders, they are respected, they have that kind of dignity, there's a kind of informed consent, there is fairness, there's honesty, the values, the system, the behavior, the actions, they are all maintained as they are required to be. And above all, the privacy and the confidentiality, the declarations that have been given by the participants, they should not be disclosed, or the organizers or the sponsors or the researchers, they should adhere to the and declarations, and they have to check that the people, there's a well-being, that is the beneficence factor, which we have just discussed before, the principle where we talk about the holistic development of our people, that is the people, they should be socially, mentally, they should be not harmed because of the research that you actually do. So either it could be a clinical research where you're doing experiments, or either it could be the social science research that the researcher is actually doing it. So those psychologically and legally, economically, one has to check the feasibility of all those things. And then they will also check about the fairness of the subject, the professional competence, the people who are doing the research, whether they have the right to do it or no. And of course, you have to have that kind of sensitive corner for the people of the vulnerable group also. And there is no undue influence, there is no money being given to the respondent to get the data. And of course, these vulnerable people, they have to be taken into consideration. So if you want to get a ethical clearance, you have to maintain all those things, that there has to be fairness, objectivity, confidentiality, privacy, dignity, and rights, and the safety of all our stakeholders. It is done. So that's all I have for you all in the ethical research. So if you are a researcher in the medical or in social sciences or whatever it is, you have to maintain certain kind of principles which have to be taken into consideration before proceeding. So here is a small note. Educated person is a person who has learned to learn and change. So if you are not following the ethical practices, my dear friends, this is the time to change. So you need to learn, and you have to change your ways of doing your research. And it says that make excellence a habit. So how far you can go. So my good wishes to each one of you. And these are the books, my books in the market, which are available. And thank you so much. So be very ethical in your daily life, in your research, or in your professional endeavors also. Thank you so much.